This is by far my most anticipated movie of the year. In fact, I'm so pumped to analyse it, I've decided to make this opening paragraph shorter than the life expectancy of my annual happy ending budget. It never lasts the year. Dek is a Yautja outcast hoping to prove himself clan-worthy by ways of travelling to Genna, the most dangerous planet in the known universe, to hunt and make a trophy of a creature that's said to be harder to kill than a pothos plant, John Wick, and my desire to be spoon-fed Munga Yang's menstrual clots. Badlands doesn't incorporate the traditional predator modus operandi, i.e. you're not following a person's story whilst the Yautja cerebrally stalks them. In fact, the movie doesn't contain any human presence at all, but more on that in a bit. Here, Dek is the protagonist, and unlike any of his predecessors, you're meant to root for him. A Yautja being the good guy certainly deviates from tradition and probably disgruntled some of the hardcore fanbase in the process, but the fresh perspective allowed us to spend some time on Yautja Prime, meet a new clan, see their technology, explore their lore, as well as witness them combat each other, and trading all of that for some normality was absolutely fucking worth it in my eyes because it was done well. Dek's appearance initially received negative critique from a portion of the aforementioned fanbase. Their complaints were valid for sure, but the reason why creative decided to make Dek look shorter, weaker, and less menacing than his fellow tribe members is simply because he's the runt of the litter, so giving him structure akin to the Yautjas we're all accustomed to would be nonsensical towards the narrative and his character arc. The design belonging to the creatures Dek encountered were imaginative and aesthetically pleasing. However, the CGI was very apparent at times, but this can be forgiven as Badlands was only working with a $105 million budget. Yes, I know on paper that's a lot of money, but when you consider the level of production scale required to make a movie of this nature, a figure that doesn't even amount to a third of what it cost to make Avengers Endgame could be viewed as impecunious. I have no complaints about the acting, cast, chemistry, soundtrack, or cinematography. Naturally, there were several scenes dedicated to Dek's character development, however they weren't very well executed, which compromised the pacing, overhumanized the alien protagonist, and unnecessarily injected Marvel-esque humour into these segments that felt forced, very out of place, and mostly failed to land. The action isn't of the sort you'd associate with this franchise. I've said that in a much harsher tone about a previous Predator installment, but here it's practically expected as Dek is essentially seeking a boss fight in a planet full of, well, other boss fights. He's the underdog every time. Fuck, even Genna's vegetation gets a couple of licks in, not to mention because of his status with the clan he has yet to be awarded a cloak, so Badlands understandably has to neglect the stealth approach that was commonly exhibited by Dek's forebears. When Badlands was given a 12A rating by the BBFC, I, like many others, was also skeptical, as that would make it the lowest rated Predator movie at time of talking. AVP1 doesn't count as it's not canon. Anyway, my skepticism vanished when I discovered that there was no human beings in Badlands. Turns out all of those Homo sapien lookalikes from the trailer are Wayland-Yutani androids, so anything resembling Bloodspill came out of either an alien or a robot, which in the eyes of the film rating wizards doesn't warrant the movie to be anything more than a PG-13. This meant that creative had the opportunity to conjure up some dick nasty fatalities whilst still being able to showcase Badlands to a wide audience, and that's exactly what they did. If the writers elected to have a load of people go up against Dek as opposed to the horde of Wayland-Yutani synthetics he faced in the final act, Badlands would not be a 12A. I won't give you the play-by-play, but let's just say I haven't seen this level of abuse towards technology since the time I hollowed out a Skywatcher telescope, stuffed it to the brim with microwaved deli meat, and repeatedly filled the makeshift cunt with bollock snot until I could see stars of my own. The Predator franchise is in good hands. Dan Trachtenberg has now provided 3 chapters to the saga, all of which are positive contributions to the overall legacy. Badlands isn't my favourite one of Trachtenberg's efforts, but it certainly deserves approval from the hardcore fanbase and a recommendation from me. Oh shit, this is the last review before I head off to Poland. Will it be my final one ever? Well, that depends on how a Polish pimp responds to me attempting to pay his bottom bitch via sliding a Revolut card in her crumb gutter.